Hello, my name is Daniel, and I'm part of the IH program, and my talk is on Black invisibility. So in my research, I tried to uncover the historical and contemporary complexities of African presence within Mexico. That is, the social, political, and economic and cultural implications of African presence within Mexico point to the larger historical phenomenon of indigenous, African, and European interaction. So essentially, a critical focus on my research is essentially looking at the establishment of the Mexican nation state. At the time of the establishment of the Mexican nation state, what was necessary for its establishment was to produce a national identity, otherwise known as the mestizo. The mestizo was a mixing between European and indigenous peoples. But the real history to this is much more complicated. This is the painting of the racial caste system. The racial caste system was a system that was deployed by Europeans to not only index the extent of racial mixing within New World, at the same time, however, to establish and maintain a hierarchy. For example, mestizo, as I mentioned earlier, was a mix between indigenous and European. Mulatto, which was African and European mix, and Zambos, which was indigenous and African mix, and much more. Essentially, the lighter you were, the more European you were. The darker you were, the less European you were. This history of racial mixing, this caste system, is indicative of the larger phenomenon of how Europeans, indigenous, and Africans interact on the social, political, and in the economic spheres of the 19th and 20th century. This brings me to the contemporary moment. So in the contemporary moment, Afro-Mexicans essentially are the result of this history. Their history is one of Africanness and Mexicanness, of colonization and freedom. But they're not understood to be the dominant racial identity in Mexico. They're a subaltern group, they're a marginalized group, something on the side. So essentially, my thing is, my research touches upon anthropological, historical, and sociological research methods. And I asked myself why it's important. Well, it's important because studying Afro-Mexican identity allows all of us to understand the complex contours of Mexican history itself, or in other words, how it went from this to this. Thank you. Cracked up,
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.